Hi, my name is Rick.
My name is Tim.
And this is...
Break It Down with Rick and Tim.
What the hell's going on?
It's a good question.
I'm glad I'm Italian. I'm not white.
You kind of are.
Why does it have to be the big chicken? Why does it have to be the big chicken?
Why do you have to say it like that? I was right, and you were racist.
It's Britney, bitch.
I still have a belief that Sasquatch is out there, but that doesn't make me crazy. And you give me that face, and this is my issue with you.
This is a podcast where Rick, a Generation Xer, and Tim, a millennial, come together and try to find answers to our changing world.
Break It Down with Rick and Tim. All right.
Our last show was about who we are and why we're doing this podcast. And before that, we talked about our religious upbringing and lack thereof, politics, and Bigfoot.
Ew.
Gross.
Yeah, gross. Grass? Gross.
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 Bigfoot is not real. Nor is the Easter Bunny. Get a life.
We're going to lighten things up a little bit. We're going to talk about something I think we can all relate to asking.
What's the meaning of life, Rick?
Are UFOs real?
Do gingers have souls?
Which came first, the Big Bang or the Big Chicken?
Ooh.
All right, let's go. There was a astronomer who's passed away, very well liked, well loved, Carl Sagan. And he has a quote that I absolutely love, and this is true. Somewhere, something incredible is waiting to be known.
So one might call that enlightenment.
What's around the corner? It's optimism,
Sure.
right?
It's hope.
I mean, yeah.
One might actually say it's faith.
Oh, no.
Oh my God.
It's Britney, bitch.
He wrote the book Contact, and they turned it into a movie, and it was finished before he passed away. And the movie's based on a character in real life named Jill Tarter, who worked at SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And she's very optimistic and believes that, you know, the truth is out there. And, you know, people would ask her, well, you know, you think by now we would have found something or heard something, but her analysis is, well, if you take a teaspoon and dip it in the ocean, did you find any fish in that teaspoon?
Mm-hmm.
You know? Yeah, you might, you know, find some amoeba or whatever, some single cell organisms, but you're not going to find the fish and the whales and everything. So
Right.
we're just starting, literally.
Right.
I hear her. Barely, but she's there.
Okay to go.
She says she's okay to go.
Do you think there's life out there?
Of course. And the reason why is because statistically speaking, it just makes sense. Like, look at the numbers. Look at the possibilities.
Yeah, they keep throwing all these zeros and trillions and billions of stars and trillions and billions of planets, and that's just in our Milky Way. You know?
Well, and let's understand what trillions and billions means, because the difference between trillion and a billion is a heck of a lot.
Yeah, but it's so overwhelming.
It is overwhelming, and that's the point. The possibilities are infinite, and that's what those numbers are meant to kind of tell you. And so it's really what light has touched our system, because that's the way we perceive the solar system, right? What maybe radio waves we've received.
There was the WOW signal.
The WOW signal.
Do you know about the WOW signal?
I have heard about the WOW signal, but for our viewers who don't know the WOW signal, or for someone like me who doesn't know the WOW signal in depth, please tell me about the WOW signal.
From what I remember, the WOW signal happened in the 1970s when I was 5 years old. In 1977, it was a narrow-band radio signal that came from the constellation Sagittarius. 72 seconds long. It never repeated after that. It was like a one-shot thing, but we recorded it. We got it. A lot of people argue that it was extraterrestrial in origin, or perhaps it is a natural phenomenon that we do not know, pulsar, quasar, who knows?
Was it just like a vibration, a sound, or
It was a
modulation? Just what was inside the signal? Did we
don't know. But Carl Sagan used that as the basis for his movie Contact, or in the book Contact. We received this signal. Inside the signal, information was sent back to us that we had already sent out into space. The first television signal that was sent out was from the Olympics with Adolf Hitler. So
Does anybody speak German?
it was turned around, sent back to us, and so in the movie, they're
return
like,
to sender?
are they Nazis? What were they? But inside that signal, they didn't know what they were sending back to us. Inside the signal was the blueprints to create a huge device to send a human to who knows where.
Oh,
Not going to spoil the movie or the book for you, but it's one of my favorite movies. Jodie Foster's in it. Have you seen it?
I have not.
Oh my gosh, it's great. Yeah, it has an interesting ending. Talks about faith. You know, at the end of the story, did she or did she not get to meet the aliens or beings out there? So it's fantastic. Matthew McConaughey plays a father, a religious figure.
Okay.
Bill Clinton, President Bill Clinton's in the movie. They used his public speeches about the microbes that were found in Martian rocks that possibly could be life from back in the 90s, and they put that in the movie and edited it just right so that it looked like Bill Clinton was talking about the signal and not to get too excited.
If this discovery is confirmed, it will surely be one of the most stunning insights into our universe that science has ever uncovered.
I like that. That's kind of cool.
Contact.
And
the chimes you're hearing are my wind chimes in the backyard. And I apologize. We're low budget podcast.
I think there's life out there based on the numbers, and I just think that if you look at like how life is created, like this idea of a big bang, like a scattering of all this matter, and we're just a splotch that has been spilled somewhere, and we're growing like mold. And there's got to be other little mold colonies everywhere. We just got to.
I believe in a creator God, not the anthropomorphic.
Ew, yuck.
Oh, excuse me.
Oh my God.
Is it anthropomorphic? Anthropomorphic.
I don't even know.
That's a deity that we create based on our own image. God, the biblical God.
Sure.
I believe in a creator, a God per se, because of all the physics and the DNA and the science. It's not an accident. You know, hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, electricity, gravity, all these things, the atoms and the neutrons. It's just, there's no way this could be just achoo, boom, life.
You ready? You ready? 3, 2, 1,
President
go!
Trump.
Welcome to the...
If you see this, please save us.
No, there's a blueprint, DNA, chromosomes. It's a blueprint.
Sure.
You know, it's fantastic.
A few moments later.
And I can't even say it. Anthropomorphical?
I'm sorry.
Anthropomorphical.
Anthropomorphic.
1 hour later.
Anthropomorphic.
Slow it down.
Anthropomorphic.
I'm telling her to go slow.
Okay.
5 hours later.
Anthropomorphic.
Anthropomorphic.
Okay.
Anthropomorphic or thick? Thick. Not thick. Anthropomorphic.
Finally!
So we live in a society where there's all different kinds of anthropomorphic gods, when in fact, no, God is in the details. The creator's in the details.
Okay.
What are the chances? Anthropomorphic, human-looking God with a white beard, or something that is beyond our comprehension, and we are lucky to be here because of its love?
What about it?
Which one? Which one would make more sense to you? Something that we can't even explain, that has given us this tremendous gift of life on this rock, orbiting the sun, traveling throughout the entire Milky Way, or an old man in a white beard that's mad at you for saying the F word too many times today?
I think they're both absurd. I think they both present the same question. I just think one is more pointed than the other. One says, here is a path that we have chosen along this, beginning, middle to end, and we need something that gives us purpose. And so here it is. This old man, he's going to tell us what to do. We've chosen that. Now, on the flip side, you have people who are like, well, I just think it's this big bang thing that we just can't comprehend, and it's just, we just go through life, and I've chosen my choice to kind of just accept this almighty being that's out there and live my life as if that being is just there, kind of watching over us and loving us and doing all sorts of things. It's the same thing, right? It's just saying that I'm not going to put a name to it. I'm not going to and I'm not going to let it like dictate my life, if that makes sense.
Okay, that's good. When you had your daughters,
yes,
did that change any perspective on a higher life form, higher being, deity of love, creation, anything? Did that influence you in any way? Did it open your eyes, make you think, or are you still the same person now as you were before you had your kids?
I mean, I think I'm always kind of changing, but my view on a higher being, I guess my view on I've always had a relationship with Jesus, right? As a kid growing up. And so now, at this point in my life, I just think that we as humans are programmed to believe that there's a higher power, which I think is fine because it makes sense. I mean,
well, it gives people meaning.
It gives people meaning and purpose, and it gives people someone to talk to when there's nobody around.
Now, prayer, that's meditation.
Sure.
You're calming yourself down. You're bringing down your heart rate. You're opening your mind.
Right.
You're focusing, you're channeling. Meditation / prayer serves a purpose. Whether or not you truly are speaking to a higher power, I think when you're praying, you are connecting to your inner spirit, your inner soul, your inner conscience,
right,
your consciousness, all the above. Whether or not it's connected to a web of energy that is the other side, the afterlife or whether, we don't know right now until we pass. When we pass away, then we know, hopefully, or it's blackness. I'm an optimist, so I'm going to think that, when we pass, then we're going to go where our loved ones who've gone before us and be a part of that whole new world.
Right.
Or it's blackness. Either way, the moment that we're in right now, the now moment, is very important.
Mm-hmm.
How you treat people, how you raise your daughters, how I take care of my dogs.
What it comes down to, for me, is God is my relationship with Jesus, but it's whatever it is that we've developed, whatever relationship we have, right, with whoever we call God.
Okay.
Right? Some people just have a different name for him, but at the end of the day, it's got to kind of be somewhat the same thing in some kind of way, because everything is kind of a construct of our own human brain and limitations.
There is a theory out there that we were genetically modified by extraterrestrials for thousands of years. Bob Lazar has talked about when he worked there at Area 51/S4. He's the guy that got outed by George Knapp, the reporter from Las Vegas in the late 1980s. Long story short, he was working on a UFO craft, and he was privy to some information, and that supposedly these extraterrestrial beings, the kids as they were called because they were so little, have been coming here for 10,000 years and have been influencing our DNA evolution over 66 times, all according to Bob Lazar, whether you believe him or not.
So wait a second. Let's go back. Because you're saying that aliens are influencing our DNA.
According to him.
Okay.
Could they be our God?
So that brings me to the question, like, what happens if we discover that, like, angels are like aliens? Because in the Bible it describes, like a wheel within a wheel machine and a crack of thunder and such coming down out of the sky. And it's, something, an alien coming down in a UFO, or it could be.
Okay.
And then what's, maybe let's think about this in terms of melding it with what you just said, where we've been genetically modified. What if, that prayer in some weird way is a resonance, a power source, if you will, for aliens, right? And so they want you to comply, and we're just, fueling their empire. Yeah.
What if tomorrow it's confirmed that we have been manipulated by aliens and extraterrestrials for thousands of years, and that we are here because of them? Like how we have influenced dogs. We have German Shepherds now because of our, so we're doing exactly, allegedly, what the aliens have done. Would that change your belief systems? Would that have any influence on your life? Would it break you? What would it do to you?
I think it would break everybody around me. And I think, like, for me, I'd be like, okay, so what's our purpose then? Like, fill me in on it so I know, like, if I'm, like, just like one of them cows in a slaughterhouse, kind of just waiting to go up into the thing, and, they're going to harvest my soul and eat it or some shit. Like, we don't know what, they're capable of. Like, that's the other thing. Like, and what you think about, like, a dream. Like, when we go into a dream, is that, like, somebody coming in and can they see what's happening in our brain? Or are they, like, harvesting our thoughts and playing around with our minds? There's all sorts of crazy shit you could get into with this.
Well, I think aliens are real.
Okay.
Based on the numbers game, because if it happened here, it can happen elsewhere under the right conditions. Let me say that again because we could hear you burping.
I tried to cover it up.
I think aliens are real simply because of the numbers game. If it happened here under the right conditions, it can happen elsewhere. It's a big galaxy. I'm not going to even think about the numbers and trillions and billions and stars and the Drake equation. And that's just, I can't even wrap my head around that. But the thing that I find kind of disappointing or sad is that life has only a window of opportunity to evolve, adapt, overcome its own issues like we're in the middle of right now.
Right.
Hopefully life would be not as self-destructive as human beings are. I'm an optimist, but I also realize that we're look what we're doing right now with our planet with global warming, for example.
Well, global warming, and we have a war going on, and to be honest with you, we have an uptick in UFO sightings.
Right. And that's interesting because in the 1940s, they rose in numbers when we were testing the atom bomb.
Right.
They probably were just watching us. And then boom, boom, what happens in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? And they're like, what are those apes doing now? A minute ago, they were driving horse buggies, and now they're splitting the atom? That was just a minute. It was just 50 years ago, So they're probably like, whoa, wait a minute. And then Roswell happened.
Right.
And then, so it's just...
So let's talk about where they're at now. So we've got... sightings that have been happening in like the Navy, a lot of that stuff. Yeah. And why would they be showing up there? Well, what's happening right now? The United States is trying to prepare for a show of force with Russia. So with our aircraft carrier groups, I saw on the news somewhere, I'm not entirely sure where, and I'm sure that there's going to be some fact checking involved here, but
the LAWS, an acronym for Laser Weapons System, is not science fiction. It is not experimental. It is deployed on board the USS Ponce amphibious transport ship, ready to be fired at targets today and every day by Captain Christopher Wells and his crew.
The United States sent a carrier ship, or a destroyer ship, that has a laser-mounted weapon on it that's supposed to be like a countermeasure to missiles and such, any sort of airborne threat. Mm-hmm. And that's a new technology. right? It could be microwave, it could be radio wave, it could be, some sort of thing. So maybe they're, and why show up at a carrier group? Well, that's, the strongest point. That is the military jewel of the United States is our carriers.
And they're nuclear powered, and they have nuclear missiles.
Right.
So they're probably keeping a close eye on us. Earlier we mentioned Bob Lazar, and he claims on his website, boblazar.com, that humans and these kids, aliens, the Greys, were working together at Area 51 in the late 1970s, and something went down. There was some kind of a conflict. Some people got killed. The aliens left and told them that they were going to come back.
The beings are 3 to 4 feet tall and weigh 25 to 50 pounds. They have grayish skin and large heads with almond-shaped wraparound eyes. They have very slight nose, mouth, and ear positions and are hairless. Any dates in the information regarding these beings were written in a 6-digit number which began with 1623. Since I had no idea what the 6-digit number was for the present year, I had no way of calculating when these beings arrived, or at least arrived this time. These beings said that they had been visiting Earth for a long time and presented photographic evidence which they contended was over 10,000 years old. There was an exchange of hardware and information in Central Nevada until 1979, at which time there was a conflict which brought the program to an abrupt halt. The beings left, but were to return at a 1623 date, and I don't know what that date is. With the remaining hardware and information, the U.S. government started the back engineering program.
Nonetheless, we fast forward now 22, 23, 24, 25 years now, and the naval carriers, the Nimitz and the Roosevelt, and the Navy jets are seeing, and the radar people, technicians, are seeing things we haven't seen yet. There's a whole fleet of these things that were recorded, but we only see the one gimbal video of that one UFO that we see turning, not the Tic Tac, the other one. And it corroborates Bob Lazar's story about the UFO he was working on, because he says when the UFO lifts up, I'm using your phone.
I see that.
Goes up like this, and then
it goes up.
And it rotates. So it'll be like the bottom of your car going forward.
It goes up flat and then goes vertical.
Yeah, and that's how it moves. Now, movies have always had the UFO going woo, 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 like this, wibble, 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 wobble. Bob Lazar says it wibble wobbles because of the gravity generators that are underneath the ship create that imbalance. So was that by chance, Hollywood back in the 1950s, by sheer luck, kind of getting that wibble wobble just by...
Is that wibble wobble dangerous or just like a usual thing?
I don't know. It's the instability created by the gravity generators, whatever, these three things that power these vehicles. But you know what I find very interesting about this? If Bob Lazar is telling the truth, he says that we will crack the code. In 100 years, we will figure it all out. We know how they're powered. He says because of that element 115 that we have yet to duplicate at a stable level. Russian scientists created element 115, but it wasn't stable. Element 115 creates the force fields, the gravity power.
How do we know they created 115 and it wasn't stable?
Well, from what I know about element 115 is that it's a man-made element. The Russians were able to figure it out, I think, in the early 2000s, 2003. And in 2016, it was finally added to the periodic table of elements.
Right.
And this is the stuff that Bob Lazar says powered the UFOs, force fields, velocity, etc., etc. We have yet to discover it in plethora on this planet. We have to make it.
Right. One atom at a time, I believe, in like a particle accelerator. And I think they call it element 115 because according to like how they do the periodic table, I think it's like 23 atoms heavier than uranium. 115 is the amount of protons in its nucleus, which is a heavy item.
From what I understand, there's no side effect. There's no nuclear waste from this stuff.
That would be pretty impressive.
And it could power for a long time.
Well, you think about uranium and the fallout that comes from that. Like, hopefully there's no fallout, because if we're playing with something like that and we mess it up, I mean, think about the Chernobyl accident. If we had an element that was heavier than uranium, because that's what they were using, because I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but if we were using something that was like more explosive, gave off more energy, wouldn't that have bigger fallout? Wouldn't that be something we wouldn't necessarily want to play with? At least not here on the surface of the Earth.
If these aliens are real, and they are using a form of element 115 like Bob Lazar says, perhaps where they come from, that element is in abundance.
Right.
And we don't have it here. But we could eventually probably create it.
Right. And right now we're creating it one atom at a time.
Wow.
And it only exists for just a fraction of a second.
Now, in reverse engineering this power source, Bob Lazar stated that he believes he replaced someone who died trying to break into it with a steel laser, I don't know, some kind of cutter. And boom, the guy died. And Bob Lazar was brought on to replace him. That's what he thinks. So it's obviously very explosive.
What does he think? Killed him just like an explosion, like the force of it?
Yeah, something like that. And Bob said this before. If you were to take a nuclear reactor to the Victorian era, gave it to the scientists back then, they would all start dropping dead from the radiation.
Right.
But eventually they would start to figure it out.
Right.
It would take time and many lives.
So now instead of standing right next to it with the laser, let's stand behind a safe space and then get into this thing.
Right.
That would make sense.
We are capturing these UAPs on FLIR thermal cameras.
FLIR?
Mm-hmm.
What's FLIR mean?
It's the name of the company that makes those thermal cameras. You played with mine.
Oh, okay.
We were looking at that owl that one night.
So
our...
Not a knockoff thermal camera.
No.
It has to be FLIR.
It was FLIR. And the Navy jets had these, and that's how they were capturing the images of these UFOs, UAPs, whatever they're called this week. Humans 1, UFOs 0, because they were jamming our radar, yet we were capturing them on thermal camera. So you know, if they're paying attention to our radio waves and what the radar technicians and the communications tower and the pilots, the bantering back and forth, ha, got it. You know, you saw the video.
Yeah.
What do you think those alien beings were like? How the hell? They've got footage of us.
Right, how are they seeing us? Oh my God, do something. Let's get out of here. Come on.
So maybe if they have influenced our evolution in some way and we are a product of their tinkering, I would like to think they were kind of proud of us. Oh, look, not only did they split the atom, and now they're able to capture our UFOs on camera. You know, here's the problem. If they are truly real, which I think they are, they have the benefit of mining our intelligence. So, for instance, maybe they never had cellular technology. Now they have it because they studied us and figured out our cellular towers, etc. Thermal cameras. Maybe they never had that, but now they do because we have that.
What happens when we finally give them what they were looking for? Do they wipe the slate clean?
Or hopefully they'll just leave.
Re-engineer something?
Then
use our planet again for something else?
When it comes to interplanetary travel, we're almost there. We're going to Mars in the next 10 years.
Right.
So we're finally entering their neighborhood. We've had the benefit of only being here on Earth and sending robots out and going to the moon a few times.
Well,
that was it.
Okay.
So they were probably comfortable with that.
Sure.
Now we're starting to go to a whole different planet now. The game is changing. We're spreading. So it depends on how they view us. Are we a virus? Are we something that should be closely monitored or controlled? What are we to them?
So let's go to that exponential growth theory, right? So here we are in our solar system, and we've gone to the moon, and we've gone to Mars, and we've sent a little probe right outside our solar system. So we're very, 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 very in our infantile state, I think, of solar travel or solar exploration. So I don't think we're a real threat to anybody yet because we're still within our own system. We're still within the known, area that we can see. So if you look at how we are going to get to Mars, there's a lot of physics involved and a lot of like slingshotting ourselves around different gravitational bodies. When I say us, I mean the astronauts. Good God. It's not an easy task. And I think what has happened is our society has kind of gotten a little accustomed to space travel. You don't see people getting excited over like a space shuttle launch. My kids, my students at work, none of them know. I remember watching the last rover that we landed on Mars live, and it was amazing. It was so exciting. Like the thing came down, and because it was like 11 minutes between when we could get the signal back, like the tension was just there. It was just like palpable. And then I had class right afterwards, and I was like all jacked up. And all my kids were like, "What happened to you?" And I was like, "What do you mean, what happened to me? What happened to us? We went to Mars." And they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah. I mean, like, not a person, but a rover." And they landed successfully. It's crazy because they had to program this rocket to shoot, and it had to do all this stuff autonomously because it had to send the signal back. Like, they're not controlling it. It's all just programmed. And then this thing came down and, like, hovered and dropped the rover down and then flew off and crashed and became human trash on Mars.
Right.
Which is such a human thing to do.
A huge achievement for mankind, but a higher consciousness, intelligence, UFOs, aliens, whatever.
They're going to look at that and they're going to say that's cute.
Yeah, but then when we actually go there and start doing stuff, they're like, okay, no, wait a minute. These guys are...
Oh, they made it to Mars.
I think that's possibly when there's going to be full disclosure. Okay, these are the rules. You're now interplanetary. Don't bring your guns. Leave your Jesus at home.
I disagree.
And wash your hands.
I think they're going to let us duke it out in the solar system. But when we travel to another system...
You think so?
That's once we figure out... I think...
Maybe then we could be unstoppable.
Well, I don't think so. Good God, no.
If we fully comprehend their technology, and like how we've advanced with the FLIR camera, that was a one-up on them.
Sure.
So who knows to say, who can say, 50 years from now, not only do we figured out their technology, but we've also advanced it and made it better. Because humans tend to do that.
Sure, but do you think that they would allow us to keep their technology if they had a danger of us, turning it against them?
It all depends. If they're indifferent towards us, it's all about where we keep it. Maybe they're looking for it. Maybe they're flexing their muscles with our naval carriers, saying, we're here. Maybe they don't really think of us as a society as a threat, but our military is a threat.
Maybe.
Because supposedly... we shot down one of their UFOs, supposedly, according to Bob Lazar. Yeah, he saw one of the craft. He saw 9 craft at S4. And one of them had a gaping hole, a wound, from being shot down.
Okay.
He also said most of them were from an archaeological dig.
Right. So they've been here before, a long time ago.
Yeah. And then, of course, the Roswell.
Sure. Here's the other thing you have to think about. If there are issues with us and they want us to find it, or when we're hiding it from them, couldn't they just do a show of force and, plop down one of our aircraft carriers, or say, hey, if you don't give us the thing, you're gone. We'll flatten Washington, D.C.
Possibly, but maybe they know that we can be a threat.
Not without their technology. And then on top of that, they have the technology right now, so we're not a threat right now.
Well, while they're here, we can be a threat to them. Outside of our planet, we can't be a threat.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean? So if we've shot down one of their craft and we have FLIR technology now that can track their vehicle, so they're probably very careful. And they don't think like us because they're not human. We like to think, they're going to maybe disclosure and land in front of the Capitol and say, hello, Mr. President, we are blah, blah, blah from the planet Serpo.
Do you remember the movie Battleship?
Battlefield Earth?
No, Battleship.
Battleship the toy?
Battleship the movie, made to kind of be along the same lines of the game, the toy.
Okay.
Yeah. In there, I thought it was actually kind of interesting. Because I thought it was kind of well done. It got the battleship aspect of it in. The aliens' spaceship thing, their craft they brought in that was in the water that they were fighting with, would only attack the ship if it perceived it to be an imminent threat to it. So if they turned their gun on the thing and went to go fire, it would recognize that and then go to try to stop them from shooting them first. There's a different set of rules, a different level of thinking. It's saying, look, that battleship there has cannons on it, but we're not going to worry about it unless it turns on us, because we're not just going to go destroy everything here, which is an interesting concept. The movie itself was terrible. It didn't make any sense. But that part of it, I was like, that's an interesting concept, and I like it.
One of the things I find fascinating about these UFOs, they are trans-medium vehicles. They travel underwater, supposedly up to 30 knots, air, and space.
Right.
People always talked about, there's an alien base out in the ocean. Probably. I mean, they're, following our naval carriers.
Right.
And we think we know the entire land.
Right. Well, we're always discovering new things in the ocean.
But how much of the ocean is really, truly uncharted by us?
Right.
Most of it. So they could very easily have a little underwater base there the entire time watching us. And who knows, maybe they're from Earth as well. From another time.
Right.
Maybe they, evolved over the 65 million years since the dinosaurs died. We don't know.
Maybe.
We haven't found that we are aware of.
Or maybe dinosaurs was like their first try.
Or maybe they wiped out the dinosaurs.
Maybe they wiped out the dinosaurs so that they could...
The mammals could have a chance.
Well, not just the mammals, but they could run their experiments.
Well, look how long the dinosaurs were here. There were dinosaur fossils when dinosaurs were living here.
We are closer to the Tyrannosaurus Rex than the Tyrannosaurus Rex is to the Stegosaurus.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? By millions of years.
Yeah. They never truly evolved into a higher life form to protect itself from a comet or asteroid, whatever it was that hit the Earth.
Well, did they? Because they were an apex predator. I mean, they ruled the Earth. They didn't need to.
And they didn't need to build anything.
Why did humans need to? Because we went a different direction. We, instead of going for strong and brawn, decided to go for intelligence. Although there's still some strong and brawn out there that really try, and they drive around them big old trucks. And
do you think the intelligence came from
They don't
language?
have much intelligence. They don't have much language either.
President Trump, if you see this, please save us.
How are we able to talk? What's this called? The larynx?
Larynx.
Larynx? How are we able to talk?
Vibrations.
We're able to communicate.
Yes.
Verbally.
With vibrations.
And form complex sentence.
Yes.
Form complex sentences.
Mm-hmm.
We share this in our social circles, our culture.
Right.
Religion, whatnot. And every now and again, there's a profound human being that comes up with something.
Right.
The wheel was created. The Romans then built roads.
Right.
The British built vessels, ships. We built the nuclear bomb. Every now and again, there's a profound person that creates something that benefits mankind. The single greatest invention is the printing press.
Right.
We wouldn't have what we have today without the printing press.
Right. And now some people are going to say a few years down the road, a few decades down the road maybe, that the single greatest invention is the internet, because it allowed us to spread that to everybody instantly.
But we would not have had the internet if it weren't for the printing press.
Right. And we wouldn't have had the printing press if it weren't for the wheel and getting all that material and all that stuff. You could always say it started somewhere, and everybody's always going to say that one thing is more important than the other. The printing press is great. If you have the ability to spread that word. The cool thing about the printing press is that it's obsolete now. Now we have the most important thing, which is the ability to spread that technology, that word, that message, whether it be in written form, whether it be in podcast form, whether it be, in a manifesto or some shit that you post online. the reach that you can get with technology, and that's what the printing press really was. That's what it showed, and that's why the printing press is the most important thing from your perspective, because it was the start, the pinnacle of spreading your message beyond it just being carved into some wall or being, copied down by somebody else. Something that allowed it to go real quick.
Earlier, I mentioned that life has a small window to achieve something. Our lives back in the day, we weren't living to be 80 or 100 years old.
We're not living to be 80 or 100 years old anymore either. Our life expectancy has gone down because of all the terrible things we are doing to ourselves.
Nonetheless, back then, 45, good life.
Yeah.
Because of the printing press, that guy's information was now then passed on to his next generation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
What happens, Rick, when we're able to take all of that information in a database and just zip into someone's brain? Then that becomes the most important invention, because then the ability to pass that knowledge goes even further.
Well, that also takes us to a whole different topic of a higher level of intelligence.
One might say that the first written language, or even like ancient language, the first one that we've ever created, the first thing is going to be the most important thing ever. The first writing utensil is the most important thing ever invented.
The pen is mightier than the sword. Do you think the printing press was the single greatest human achievement of all time? Or the sling?
The sling? Well, I think honestly, I think, the printing press had its power.
Well, yeah, the Bible got to be...
The Bible is insane.
Got to be printed. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, it depends on your perspective and what it did at the time, because it's doing the same thing the internet. Because I'm still like on board with the internet, because not only has the internet changed like how like it. The printing press started out by saying, here's this much information, as much as you can read or see in pictures, single pictures. That is the information you get, and you have to take that in. But now the internet is able to go in front of people who don't have that literacy. They weren't learning that language as far as written down, and they can just sit there and absorb it. You can put it in front of a child, and they're absorbing information so much faster. So they're getting... Kids today have so much more information. They have information overload because they're constantly being bombarded with all this information, and that's because of the internet.
Well, yeah, and I've seen it with your kids, even your 2-year-old. Absolutely. Technology is a language, and they're whiz-banging with the tablets. It's crazy. It's great.
Right? So the web, I think, is the most important...
Human achievement.
It has given us the ability to all communicate. We are all essentially a hive mind if we choose to buy in.
Right.
Which, who doesn't?
We are very adaptable creatures. And our thumb has given us the ability to grab a bone and use it as a weapon, to grab rocks and to dig in with sticks, to dig for animals, to kill each other. And
to make tools.
And chimpanzees are doing that. And they're saying that chimpanzees are kind of experiencing our Stone Age now.
Do you think that in many, many years they're going to develop their language and evolve into smart beings?
I don't know. If we want to take the alien...
And they'll get mad at us for having them in zoos?
Take the alien equation out of it, because that's using an unknown to explain a possible known. For right now, all we know is that we are the highest evolved species on this planet that we know of right now.
Right.
We are able to stand upright and to create and build things. If elephants are able to create and build things, or whales, they could quite
ants,
possibly...
Termites.
They don't build. They dig and they burrow. Bees create the little honeycombs and things, but they're not building a society per se like we do.
Well, and that's the other thing. Like, what if it's a whole completely different thing? What if all of this is bullshit and aliens, like a different alien species, happens upon us? Because what if these are the alien species that are here, but then another species finds us, and they come and they're like, oh, the intelligent life here are ants or elephants or Lesbians.
Like Star Trek 4 with that whole probe coming to talk to the whales, and there was no whales in the 23rd century.
You think this is its way of saying hi there to the people of the Earth? There are other forms of intelligence on Earth, Doctor. Only human arrogance would assume the message must be meant for man.
You hear none of my jokes today, do you?
Was that a joke?
That was a joke before. Anyway.
Oh. Let me know it's a joke ahead of time.
Maybe I should. I said lesbians.
Oh. Last show, we talked about how I was part of the whole Bigfoot world because I was on that reality show and I was drinking the Kool-Aid. I have a saying now because of the recent thermal footage been released by the Pentagon of these flying unidentified aerial phenomenon. The scorecard is this: UFOs 1, Bigfoot 0.
Right.
And that's because the government's actually come forward with this stuff.
Right.
Most recently, he released this image, which he claims shows the first UFO filmed by the U.S. military in a conflict zone.
What you see in this image is you see the first ever released U.S. military filmed UFO over a conflict zone that is officially designated UFO or UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomena, that is actively being investigated.
Have you heard of Bigelow Industries?
Bigelow Industries.
Robert Bigelow bought property, what is now considered Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh, yes, there's a show.
Yeah. And he's also come forward and believes that aliens are visiting us, and he is trying to crack the code, per se. And there's the mystery. Does the private sector, which is Bigelow, have their hands on some advanced hardware? Maybe, maybe not. The government? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on if you listen to Bob Lazar. But if the private sector were to get their hands on this stuff and crack the code before the government, oh my gosh, it could be sold to our enemies.
You're right.
The highest bidder.
Well, and it's video game companies have done this, as far as like some of their games. I think it was like a Metal Gear Solid or something, where it's big companies that take over. Or I do it in my role-play game where it's the big companies are the ones who cracked the code of space travel and all of this, and it's just a mad scramble of how can this make me rich? Right? And it becomes infighting, and you have privatized, contracted killers who go after each other, and private armies that fight private wars for private, resources. Well, public resources. And here's the other thing. Element 115, whoever cracks it, they're going to win whatever war there is. Because think about what happened when we discovered the atomic bomb.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
We could be
uranium. We cracked uranium or whatever. Boom. Jesus, look what we can do.
And we could travel to Russia, boom,
right,
and take out their entire military.
Right.
Just like that.
Right.
With force fields.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, we could just, and when you say force field, we're talking like you could create a force field that would just like crush the soda can right here, and it would have no idea it's coming.
Imagine using gravity itself as a weapon.
Right.
Crush a building. I mean, it'd be wild.
Or if you want to f*** people up, just throw them up into the air.
The possibilities with gravity, we think gravity is a wave created by mass, but what if there's other things that can create gravity and use it for other means?
Right.
The possibilities are endless for nefarious reasons. There's also probably positive possibilities, but just imagine if it gets in the wrong hands. Now, 6 years ago, we all thought America was great during the Obama years.
We're doing okay.
Then during the Trump years, if you're an alien watching what's going on, knowing what's happening behind the scenes, would you want the Americans to have this kind of technology? I mean,
you'd be like, "What? Wait a minute. What's going on? Who's in charge here?"
Wait, what are they doing? They're selling top secret information to Saudi Arabia about their enemies, Israel.
Right?
we like to think of ourselves as the good guys, but maybe to a higher power, they might be like, or
Right.
higher intelligence.
Right.
No, maybe it's the Australians.
Well, I mean, at the time, for so many years, the United States has been at the forefront of technology and the hegemon as far as like world power goes, that it makes sense. But then all of a sudden, you see this moment of weakness where democracy gets a little shaky because all of a sudden it's being taken over by, essentially what happened to
A narcissist. Proto-dictator.
the world in 1940s with Germany.
Mhm.
So,
what if aliens are real, they like China over us, and China gets to figure out
Right.
the technology?
Right.
What if they like China over us because maybe their social infrastructure is communist?
Right. What if they like the ants because their infrastructure is similar to that?
As a hive, maybe there's a queen.
Right.
We don't. I mean, there's so many what ifs. I mean, we could talk all night.
What
about
happens if they crash their ship and start spreading?
So I think, okay, here's another question.
Okay.
Tim, let's say we've already established that aliens are real.
Okay.
Are they friendly?
I hope so. I would think that they would be. Well, it also depends. Like I said before, are they, waiting to harvest our souls for something?
Or
like
slave labor?
Or are we slave labor? Are we their power source?
What happened to the Neanderthals? Were they taken?
Were they? Is that a thing?
I don't know, but they're extinct. There's no more.
That's true. With the
Neanderthals.
dodo birds.
A
And
lot of what ifs.
And now the rhinos.
I don't think it's a matter about good versus evil, because that's a human definition. That's a human label that we put on things to make us comfortable.
Okay.
I think now, I didn't think this before, but now I think that these aliens, these grays, these ebons, as they're called,
Okay.
whatever, the kids, I think they're indifferent. I think there's something else about this planet that they like, they want, or need, or want to preserve, and they're having to deal with us. Maybe it's because this planet is a bio Garden of Eden. Every kind of life form is on this planet that we are aware. Flying, swimming, basic single-celled.
Sure.
To we're now just discovering organisms living at the bottom of the ocean that don't require sunlight and are at those heating vents.
Right.
Which normally would have been like, that's impossible. There could be no animals down there during that kind of temperature. Yet there
they are.
Right. And there's communities of them.
Right.
So
it's a thriving ecosystem.
Earth is special. I really do think our planet is very special.
Right. Well, we
and fragile.
think of ourselves. I mean, we think of everything in our known universe to be kind of carbon based, right? And we breathe oxygen because what is oxygen? CO2. We think from the perspective that everything else is carbon based, like plants take in CO2 and spit out oxygen, and that powers us. So, what if on another planet things aren't carbon based? They're like silicone based. Gross.
Yeah.
Planet of fake titties.
I don't know. Right. There could be a whole planet of robots called Mars.
You're gonna have to take that out.
About titties?
Yeah.
Oh.
Probably. I don't know.
Oh. People like titties. People like
Oh
Transformers.
my god! I saw the worst thing on CNN one time. I saw this wackadoo go on there and say that there are two things that he believes in. And that's
Two
the
things.
First Amendment and boobs.
First Amendment and boobs.
And
What about the
boobs.
Second Amendment?
No, it's the First Amendment and boobs. Neither of them has ever let him down. That definitely comes from that culture. I think I remember my friend telling me that one time. Like he heard it at some like youth group thing and came home and was like, "Hey, I have the funniest thing to tell you. These are the two things I believe in the most." I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "First Amendment and boobs." And I'm like, that's cool, dude. You've never seen a boob in your life. Maybe your mom's.
I want to tell you something that really annoys me.
What annoys you?
Using an unknown to explain another unknown. It's
Okay.
just make-believe, and it's a waste of time. There's a television show that's had 18 seasons that's been on for quite a few years. It started in March of 2009. Its executive producer is a guy named Kevin Burns. This TV show has over 220 episodes. I'm talking about Ancient Aliens.
According to ancient astronaut theorists, strikingly similar creation myths exist in ancient cultures.
Ancient astronaut theory proposes that this actually is extraterrestrial intervention.
Ancient astronaut theorists suggest another story told by early Native Americans. But according to ancient astronaut theorists, the stone is based on an actual historical event, one that predates the building of the Great Pyramid by thousands of years.
What I find so annoying about that television show is the narrator says, according to ancient astronaut theory, as if it's a thing, as if it's something. And they say it over and over and over in over 220 episodes. It's like with Donald Trump. He repeats himself, and it's like a lie. People begin to believe it. The more you say it, the more it gets imprinted on your brain, according to ancient astronaut theory.
It's the white coat effect, right? Because it adds a sense of authority to it, right? I can say whatever I want if I say according to ancient astronaut theory. So, what is ancient astronaut theory?
All sorts of mysteries surround the construction of these monuments and why they were built. Some theories suggest that instead of just observing the skies, they might have been erected using knowledge from visitors from another world. That's the idea behind the ancient astronaut theory.
The ancient astronaut theory tries to establish whether or not extraterrestrials visited Earth in the remote past.
Here.
Okay.
This is from a cathedral in Spain.
Okay.
And people think that's an astronaut.
Sure.
No. Why? It looks like he's wearing an astronaut helmet.
Right.
Looks like he's wearing an astronaut type of suit.
Sure. But to me, that's a very much like a human interpretation of what an astronaut would look like.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what we would look like if we were astronauts, and that's very much what we do look like if we are astronauts.
Well, according to ancient astronaut theory, there you go. They've been here. They've been influencing our churches.
So basically, what you're saying is ancient astronaut theory is things that look like... Okay, so yeah. No, we see this all over the place, though. We see it in everything. We see it in the Bible. It's the wheel within a wheel. So... what are you telling me here? All we're saying is that there may have been signs of UFOs or theories of aliens before us? Sure.
220 episodes, just based on all that, what you just said right there.
Right, because there's so much of it. You showed me like a couple pictures here, and on my phone I have a picture pulled up of some little figurines that look like spaceships that were found in Colombia.
Oh, yeah.
And people believe that is a sign that aliens have been here because those clearly show spaceships. Not only that, there are ancient landing pads in some places in South America. I mean, when I was a kid, I watched Ancient Aliens, and they go through all this stuff. There's just so much stuff out there that you can spin to say this is aliens. So, of course, they have 220 episodes because it's interesting. It's history as well. You're getting not just the possibility of ancient aliens, but you get a look at a little bit of Colombian culture right there. It's actually a little bit educational. So while you hate it, it might actually in some ways be doing a little bit of good education-wise.
But why does it always have to be an alien? Why does it always have to be a UFO?
Because that's the hook. That's the bait. That's the thing that gets the money, Rick. It's just like your Bigfoot thing, right? He makes the show for entertainment. It's not necessarily to tell people that it's not informative. Oh my God. It's not for them to say, this is aliens, this is real, get on board, let's do something, let's rally the troops. This is, let's see how many episodes we can go, and let's see how many times we can get our contract renewed, and let's make money, right? And people will eat it up, right? It's like the ghost hunting shows. Why are those so popular? Oh, because they're scary, they make you tingle a little bit, right? And if you believe that somebody flicked on your little light there that's sitting in your little breast pocket right in front of your camera, then great. That's fun. That's entertainment. That's what this is. That's what this is. That's what somebody did right here. They were like, hey, let's draw something. People will read this years from now and think, oh my God, aliens.
I can argue both sides of the fence.
Okay.
I can debate this from that point of view and from my established, this is annoying point of view. However, according to Bob Lazar, that these things have been here for 10,000 years. So they could have very easily have been chit-chatting with the Peruvians.
Sure, easy.
And we have now documentation chiseled in the rock.
So I'm looking at what looks like an alien in a spacesuit that looks like a deep-sea diver, to be honest. A little smoother, though. And then I'm also looking at a picture that looks like some Egyptian hieroglyphics. And it's got clearly one of the gray aliens is what we would call it, carved into it.
Now, is that even real? How do we know if that's real or not?
I don't know. I'm going off of what Bob Lazar told us about gray aliens.
From 10,000 years. The crystal skull that the Aztecs supposedly have, that the Smithsonian has, did the aliens make it with the lasers? Or was it a hoax? Or is it carved? Or was there tools back then that was used to make it that we have long since forgotten? We've forgotten the recipe for cement that the Romans used. And their cement was better and stronger than the cement that we have today. But during the Dark Ages, that recipe was gone because they didn't have the recipe written on paper, or because
witchcraft,
or they didn't have it chiseled into tablets.
Right.
So that knowledge is gone. So today, people think, oh, they were using a certain kind of ash that was predominant in that location at that time, which is why all those Greek structures are still holding up today. But
yeah, interesting.
That's human ingenuity. Did ancient astronauts do that? Why can't we create this all on our own without having some kind of alien explanation for it? The pyramids. Slaves made those pyramids, not aliens. Oh, but the pyramids are lined up in the star formation. I mean, it's just like, is everything alien based? It could be, but
everything's based on a belief system. If we go back to the meaning of life, right? If you look at like these ancient aliens, what do they view them as? When you go into like the ancient texts and things of that nature, they were their gods. So what happens when Jesus comes back on his chariot and it comes from the sky and he steps out in his sandals and is just like, "What up, crew?" And people are like, "What? You're an alien?" Sure. What if Jesus comes back as an alien?
What if Jesus was an alien?
That's what I'm saying. Right? And they beamed him up.
See, this Pandora's box with this whole aliens and UFO stuff.
It's the same thing with religion, right? The only difference is that you've chosen your church. So this Kevin Burns fella created his own church, essentially, and it's Ancient Aliens. It's televangelism. The only difference is he's not saying you need to send money. What he's saying is watch the ads during the commercials.
Yes, and come back next week.
Right.
According to ancient astronaut theory, the bigger questions.
The bigger question.
The Big Bang. Was there a Big Bang, do you think? Which explains why all the galaxies are spreading apart. And now the galaxies are accelerating. They're coming to find out. And they're theorizing that it's dark matter that's making the galaxies expand even faster and farther apart. How many Big Bangs have there been? We know of one, allegedly.
Right. Is it something that keeps popping off? Pop, pop, pop? How many times has it popped off?
How many universes are there? Right. Thanks to Marvel Comics, we have meta-universes, and Earth is number 386 that we're living, whatever.
Well, they got to go somewhere because good gravy. But you know what? That was already done in, what was it called? What was that show that ran for a very long time? Stargate SG-1.
Oh, goodness.
Don't oh, goodness me. That was a great show. It was a great show.
They had the Greys in it. Ozghouls, Oozghouls, what were they called?
Something like that. Ozghouls, yeah, something.
Yeah.
It was a good show. You didn't like it?
It was cute. I would rather watch it than Ancient Astronauts.
Right.
Meanwhile, back on topic.
If all this has happened before and will happen again, the universe recycles itself. They say that the iron in our blood cells has come from a star that went supernova.
The lives and deaths of the stars seem impossibly remote from human experience, and yet we're related in the most intimate way to their life cycles. The very matter that makes us up was generated long ago and far away in red giant stars.
So we're made of stardust.
Sure.
So everything repeats, everything recycles.
Well, yeah, that makes sense because... So the theory, I mean, is that energy can't be destroyed.
Well, it's a fact.
It
can only change.
Right, it can only change.
Right.
So going back to like electrons, think about electrons, that's energy, right? So I theorize that when it comes down to space travel and the next step of technology, it's going to be electron-based. I don't know. Or maybe it won't.
Or maybe it'll be gravity-based.
Right? Maybe it'll be, UHD DVDs. Or what's the one that competed with...
Beta?
Beta.
Yeah. Beta was the professional level of video recording the industry used.
Yeah.
Well, us normal consumers used VHS.
VHS.
And now it's time for Let's Quiz Tim.
Oh, boy.
How many times have we been to the moon?
I think 6 times.
Very good. Very good. When was the last time we went to the moon?
1974.
What year was I born?
1974.
What year was I born?
1976.
What year was I born?
I don't know. I've lost it. 1967. 1953.
See, I got that one. Okay. 1972.
1972. I wasn't... Okay.
Right. And then we stopped.
Do you want to try again?
No, that was actually kind of funny.
Oh, my God, for sake.
We stopped going to the moon because we flexed our muscles to the whole world, and we were the arms race. Oh, excuse me. The space race. We pretty much won it.
Right.
We weren't the first people in space. The Russians were. But we were the first ones on the moon.
Right.
And now we're going to be
allegedly.
As far as documented history is concerned, ancient astronaut theory, we were the first ones on the moon, and there have yet to be other humans on the moon.
Okay.
And now we're going to Mars.
Right.
Is this another space race, or is this to benefit mankind? Is this to...
What benefit does mankind get from going to Mars?
I don't know. Looking for element 115.
Right. Well, what if we find something on Mars that changes, the trajectory of humanity, right? Good. But here's the other thing you have to also look at. Like, is this a space race between countries, or is this a space race between the collective humanities, public-funded NASA, and the private sector?
Yeah. Together. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So this will be interesting to see where Mr. Elon Musk takes.
Loser! Someone might even argue that Starlink might be the greatest thing because we don't know the true capability of what that's going to bring to the world.
Right. Well, what is Starlink spreading? What is Starlink?
The internet.
Being a part of the internet,
yes.
The web. We are expanding our web. And that, again, goes back to...
Doesn't matter where you are in the world.
The most important thing. And what are we trying to do now? What do we try to do with the printing press? It's spread that.
Yeah.
And what are we trying to do with the web? Spread that. You have a much wider reach. And then you can broadcast it out into the flipping wherever you want. And some people somewhere is going to get 74 seconds of a distorted signal that you sent out of like some kid just Xeroxed his butt.
Yeah.
They decode it and some ass.
Uh-oh.
On this segment of Let's Trigger Rictor, here we are at Let's Trigger Rictor. Guns. Do they kill people?
I saw a gun jump out of a person's hand and hop across the street like this and shoot somebody.
Yeah.
And then it did like a boomerang thing, like in Australia. It went right back into the person's hand. I did. I saw it.
That's fancy.
Mm-hmm. And I also saw Bigfoot too.
Right.
No, people kill people. Guns are just a tool, like hammers. Cars kill people with the person behind the wheel. Cars as a tool. your fist needs to be registered if you're a heavyweight boxer.
Okay. Yeah, right.
Your fist is used as a tool.
As a tool, right.
My mouth has been known to be a tool.
My.
Do you think, but I guess what I'm asking here is, do you think that...
Just ask me what you want to ask me, bro.
I am asking you what
bro,
I want to...
just come right out and for it. Don't be like hiding in the closet. Come out.
Do you think that we have an unhealthy obsession with guns in this country?
I do.
Yes. Why?
Yeah. Because of media. Because of toxic masculinity.
Right.
You're not a man unless you own a gun.
Right. Well, and again, I've shot a gun and I've almost blown somebody's head off by accident. Yeah, no, and that's the thing, and that's when I decided that, you know what, I don't need this. I don't need to take the risk.
You've
right?
never blown someone's head off.
I know. I said I've come close to. I didn't say I did. I said I've come close to blowing someone's head off by accident. And it's not a pleasant moment. So what happened was my buddy, we had the two clay pigeons on the little thing, and he threw it, and one went that way and one went that way. So I shot the first one, boom, and then I cocked the gun and went around and bop, shot the other one right there. And my buddy's head was right there. And I was like, okay, that's enough for me. Because it was just like, it's just too close. It's too close. And I just lost the appeal of having a gun, because in my mind, I don't need one.
I am scared of owning a gun because I don't want to use it on someone, because I don't think I could live with myself, even if it was in self-defense. Now people say, you got to protect your family and protect this and protect that.
Well, statistically speaking, you're going to get shot with your own gun, because you're going to fumble around with it. It's going to drop, and the person who's robbing you is going to pick it up and shoot you.
Right. Guns fulfill a need for protection. I understand that. I do not think we need to have AR-15s at all. Oh,
well, I mean, the founding fathers
talk about the Second Amendment. There's more to it than the right to bear arms.
But you're missing the point, right? The point is it's in there, right? And as long as the words are there, it doesn't matter how you chop them up. As long as you get them to be just right, then you can back up whatever you want, right? We don't, as long as we ignore the whole part that says in order, for protection in a well-regulated militia, we can ignore the well-regulated militia part. We don't need a regulated militia, so we're just gonna pretend we're gonna read, because here's the thing: the part that everybody talks about, the right to keep and bear arms, that all comes after a comma, so it's not the beginning of the sentence even. So that's, I mean,
right. And if
as a teacher, it just hurts. It just hurts.
But Tim, if we were to go to war with the government or something, they have tanks. They've got bazookas and missile launchers and
at the end of the
jets.
day, everybody's an idiot who thinks that they can take out the government. But at the same time, like, where's the well-regulated militia part? Like, are you what militia? Like my
Oath Keepers, Proud Boys,
right?
Patriot Front.
So great, get in a militia. At least we know where you're at and who you belong to, right?
Yeah.
Just in case we do get invaded, maybe we do want to call up, the cosplayers.
Experience changes you. If I had someone do a home invasion on me and my dogs, okay, maybe then that would make me change my mind about owning a gun. Having a gun, would that protect me in that situation? I would hope so, but then at the same time, like you said, guns could be used against you.
So we have this idea in our mind that we are going to get broken into. We are going to get attacked. We are going to need protection. Everybody thinks that everybody's after them. It's why you can't look at people anymore.
Yeah. Home invasions do occur.
They do occur. But they are very rare. And if you look at the statistics on it, which I haven't really done, but I suspect that, guns aren't necessarily going to be what everybody thinks they are. They're not going to be these amazing things that save your life. Sure, there will be those moments where there's an invader in your house and somebody with a gun shoots them, and it's hooray! It's amazing. I'm sure there are instances, probably many instances of it happening. But at the end of the day, there's a lot more accidents and a lot more kids that die. The leading cause of death among teenagers now is no longer cars.
It's guns.
It's guns.
Yeah.
Right? Whether that be accidents or stupid teen-on-teen violence, which is what it is.
And we just recently had that 6-year-old shoot their teacher.
Yeah. Right? How the heck did he get a gun?
Some GOP right-wing person said, well, that's why we need to arm teachers.
That's why
so
we
that
need
a
to
teacher will shoot
so that
a
I can
6-year-old?
shoot my 6-year-old student.
Oh,
what
my
is
God.
wrong with people? No. No. And that's the stupid thing. Like, why do we... okay.
Now you're triggered.
Now I'm triggered. Now I'm
You're a teacher. Should we arm teachers?
I'm a teacher, and in my car, I don't carry a gun. I carry a gunshot trauma kit. I've got, it's got like a tourniquet. It's got like special gauze that absorb a lot more than a normal gauze. It's got all sorts of things in there that are used for a gunshot trauma. And I got that, and my brother got it for me because we lived in Portland and he thought it would be funny. But the reality of it is I've needed that in some situations. I had a student who got shot walking to school, and he came running into the building all bleeding all over the place. Yeah, right? And so at the end of the day, it's like you get a choice here. You can be part of the problem, right? Or you can help, deal with the fallout of fucking Rambo all over the place.
The NRA has been influencing our political leaders far way too long.
Oh, yes.
And I like how Governor Newsom in California has made it so that you can sue gun manufacturers.
Finally.
Yeah, and go after the NRA.
Right, because at the end of the day, it's a public nuisance, right? It's like secondhand smoke.
Yeah.
Right? I'm getting hit by secondhand bullets. If somebody shoots off your gun and it hits somebody in a public place, you should be held liable for it. Just like, secondhand smoke.
Guns are big business.
They are. They're huge.
Yeah.
Well, they're part of our military-industrial complex, and they found a market in the civilian sector.
Yep. I'm going to go shoot me a Bigfoot.
There you go.
And one of them liberals. Fucking MAGA.
Oh, my God.
Hey, Tim. On another hot topic, there is a question that mankind has yet to find the answer to.
And what is that, Richter?
What are women thinking?
Ooh. Is that something we really want to break down?
I don't know. You're surrounded by it.
I am. I live in a house with 3 other girls, women, children,
and
a
cats.
wife.
You have cats.
And I have 3 female cats. 4 female cats.
The estrogen in your house must be as
it's
thick
palpable.
as the humidity in Louisiana.
Oh, it's like walking through syrup.
Oh, goodness.
Gross.
Women. And what's happening to women today?
They are becoming second-class citizens.
Yes, and that's our discussion for the next Break It Down with Rick and Tim. Tim now has a Twitter.
I do have a Twitter, which you should have seen on the first episode, right?
Yes, and it's going to be right here.
Boom, right here.
Do you remember what it's called?
Yeah, it's Tim Breaks It Down.
Right.
At Tim Breaks It Down.
Have you followed him? And mine is at Richter_Riolo, right here.
Richter has had a Twitter. He has many followers. He would like some more. Please follow Richter.
And if you enjoyed this discussion and want to add to it or ask us questions, please feel free to message us. To you listening, what are the big questions? The meaning of life? Are UFOs real?
We never really touched on what the meaning of life was.
Caramba!
What is the meaning of life? Holy shit. Yeah, I gotta go.
What?
One of our cats pooped behind the washing machine. We can finish this on another day.
Does that feel better?
If you squeeze it really hard right here, keep going. Squeeze as hard as you can. You gotta pop it. That's the thing. So, you're not squeezing hard enough.
I am. That's the hardest I can squeeze.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.